Next step towards quiz creation is to create your very first question. So let's go down on the left-hand column in settings to the question bank once again. And this time, instead of going to categories, we're going to go to questions. So I want you to notice that at the top, you want to start by selecting a category that you want to place the question into. So for example, I could go down and show you the questions that we have in cycles and energy flow. There's 263 questions in there. And we've been renaming these. So what you see under the question column is the actual question name. Now, a lot of people actually type the whole question in there for the name, but you can also shorten it. So for example, this is where he used the question name for, the question itself for the name. But I want to show you another example. As we've been organizing, he and I have been putting the overarching topic, which is really one of the benchmarks in this case, and then we've been leveling them, level 1, 2, or 3. But however you want to name your questions is up to you, and you just want to create names so that when you're about to look into a question bank to build a quiz, that it's efficient for you based on glancing at the question name. All right. So what you will do when you create your new question is you click on the button that says create a new question, and again make sure that you have selected the category you're going to put that question into. So I say create a new question. You can see here that there are a variety of different types of questions, but the one I wanted to mention was the description question. That actually is not a question. If you select description, then that will just create a block in your quiz ultimately where you're asking students to do something, or you're providing some sort of direction for the questions below it. So for example, in the earlier examples I gave you, this is where we embedded the video. But there's a number of things you can do in a description question, which is not actually a question. All right, what I want to show you is a multiple choice question for our first question. I'm actually going to cancel here, and I'm going to go into one of Mike's, because if I did select it, these are the fields that you would see. So I'm just going to click on the edit button here. And these are the fields that you'll fill out, and I'm going to go through them one at a time. First of all, anything with a star is a required field, so this is where we put our question name. And then this is the actual question that the students will see. Notice that you can insert an image in there. You could embed video in a question. You have access to an equation editor with this particular icon right here. You can do a hot link to a website. You can format your text, all of those things. Now, the general feedback, a lot of people leave all the feedback fields blank, but just so that you know, general feedback is what all students would see after they answer that question. So it doesn't matter how they answered, right or wrong, they would see this, whatever you put in the general feedback or don't put in the general feedback. The more feedback you include in your question when you build it, the more it's of a learning type of an exercise as opposed to an assessment type of an exercise. You can certainly build a quiz solely for self-paced learning as well. You don't have to have it be part of grading. You get to choose whether one answer is correct in the multiple choice options, or if multiple answers are needed to answer it correctly. And you can, if you put the check mark here, you can shuffle the answers. So if you have students in a computer lab and you want to just make it less enticing for them to look at their neighbor, this might be one way to do that. Again, if you put a lot of those answers like answer E, all of the above, I'm not sure that you'd want to shuffle the choices. So then we're going to, what about numbering the choices? You can do it any numbering system that you like. And then you start to put in the possible answers. So this is answer number 1, is the same thing as choice number 1. If this is the correct answer, you are going to choose from the grade pull-down menu 100%. That means that if this was a 1-point question, that student would get a 1 if they chose glycolysis. This is where you can have multiple answers. So if they have to pick 2 right answers, maybe you give them 50% if they pick the first one, 50% if they pick the second one. All right, I'm just going to slowly tease down so you can see the next answer, which is wrong in this instant. If it's wrong, the grade that they get is none. That's like getting a 0 for an incorrect response. So notice that there are 6 default, 7, lots of, you can have a multiple choice, doesn't just have to be 5 possible answers. You can also click on blanks for more choices, and that would give you more options to list things. So you can have as many options as you'd like. All right, here's some more feedback fields. If a student answers it correctly, it is possible, or incorrectly, it is possible for you to customize feedback for those instances, and that's what you would enter in these fields. Now, it is possible when you build the quiz, you're going to get the option of allowing that student to take the quiz 1 time, or you can allow them to take it more than once. So, ultimately, you're going to see a percentage correct out of the entire quiz grade, and this is what you would use if you wanted them to be penalized for taking the quiz more than once. So if they got it wrong the first time, but they got it right the second time, they would really only get a partial credit. You can provide hints, which is kind of cool. Again, especially if you're doing the quiz for the purpose of learning, not assessing. And right now, I just want to apologize. I think leave the tags blank because I can't get that or science out of there. So then you're going to save changes. Now, another thing that's cool is if I wanted to make 5 questions that are very close to each other, instead of having to start each one from scratch, you have the option to make a copy. So that's how I built my first question, and it's a multiple choice question.